I remember exactly how the courtroom smelled that day. Furniture polish and fear. My hands wouldn't stop shaking as I watched my ex-husband walk in with his attorney, both in perfect suits that probably cost more than my monthly rent. I hadn't slept in 3 days. The judge was reviewing the paperwork, and I could feel everything I loved most in this world hanging by a thread. My name is Sarah, and 18 months ago, I nearly lost custody of my children because I couldn't afford to fight back against someone who could. But then something happened that changed everything. My 10-year-old daughter handed over a letter, and suddenly the truth had a voice. If my story helps even one person, it'll be worth sharing. Before I begin, if you've ever felt powerless, backed into a corner with everything you love at stake, please subscribe and share this video. 5 years ago, I was working as a nurse, married to James, with our 2 amazing kids, Emma, who was then 8, and Noah, who was 6. From the outside, we looked like the perfect family. The reality was different. The signs were always there, I guess. James controlled our finances completely. I had an allowance despite working full-time. He tracked my spending, questioned every purchase. When I needed new scrubs for work, I had to justify it like a child asking for candy. When I finally found the courage to leave, I discovered something terrifying. There was almost nothing in our joint accounts. For years, he'd been moving money elsewhere. I left with 2 children, 3 suitcases, and $342 to my name. My sister Mel took us in, let us stay in her guest room while I picked up extra shifts and saved for a place of our own. The kids shared an air mattress for 4 months while I slept on the floor beside them. The first custody arrangement was reasonable. Shared custody, though the kids lived primarily with me since James traveled often for work. But when I finally saved enough for a small 2-bedroom apartment, everything changed. Suddenly, James wanted full custody. He claimed I was unstable, living in unsuitable conditions. The lawyer's letters started arriving weekly, each one more threatening than the last. I couldn't afford an attorney. I was barely keeping up with rent and groceries. The court appointed someone to represent me, but she had 300 other cases and barely knew my name. Meanwhile, James had hired one of the most expensive family law attorneys in the city. The accusations kept coming. That I was neglectful because I worked nights sometimes. That the apartment was too small. That the kids didn't have their own rooms. Each court appearance, each filing deadline became this mountain I had to climb while carrying both kids on my back. The worst part wasn't the legal battles, it was watching Emma and Noah caught in the middle. They'd come home from weekends with their dad asking why we couldn't live in a big house like he did. Why they had to share a room. Why I couldn't buy them the same things he could. 6 months into the battle, James filed for emergency custody. He claimed I was emotionally unstable and that the children were suffering. The hearing was scheduled for the following week. I had no way to fight back. The night before that hearing was the darkest of my life. The kids were asleep, and I sat on the bathroom floor at 3 a.m., wondering if they might actually be better off with him. He could give them everything I couldn't. Maybe I was being selfish, fighting so hard to keep them in a cramped apartment with a mom who was barely keeping it together. I'd never felt so small, so powerless. I called Mel, sobbing so hard I could barely speak. She came over immediately, held me while I fell apart, then helped me pick up the pieces. "Those kids need you," she told me. "Not his money, not his big house. They need you." I didn't believe her. But I got up the next morning anyway, put on the only professional outfit I owned, and took my children to court. The courtroom was exactly as intimidating as I'd feared. James and his attorney sat across from us, confident. The judge began reviewing the emergency petition, and then Emma tugged on my sleeve. "Mom," she whispered, "I need to give you something." She pulled a folded paper from her pocket, creased from being hidden. I opened it, not understanding at first. It was a letter, written in Emma's careful handwriting. The letter detailed how James coached them before each court evaluation. How he told them what to say about me, about our home. How he promised them toys and trips if they helped Dad win. How he made them feel scared and confused. And at the bottom, Noah had signed it too, with his crooked little signature. I handed it to my attorney, who immediately requested permission to approach the bench. The judge read it, looked at my children, then at James. The judge called a recess. When we returned, something had shifted. She questioned Emma and Noah herself, gently, in her chambers. And they told her everything. The emergency petition was denied. The judge ordered a full investigation into James's behavior and appointed a guardian ad litem, a proper advocate for the children. For the first time, someone with power was actually listening. The following months weren't easy. The investigation uncovered financial manipulation, coaching of the children, and attempts to alienate them from me. James was ordered to pay back child support and contribute properly to their expenses. But the most important outcome wasn't financial. The final custody arrangement gave me primary custody, with James having structured visitation. The courts recognized what I'd always known, that love and stability matter more than material advantages. We moved to a slightly bigger apartment last year. The kids still share a room by choice, even though they could have their own spaces now. Emma's 13 now, starting to discover who she is. Noah's 11 and thriving in school. They still visit their dad, but on terms that prioritize their well-being, not his ego. And me? I went back to school part-time. I'm finishing my nurse practitioner certification next year. The journey isn't over, but we're walking it together on stable ground. Looking back, I realize how many women and men, too, face what I faced. When someone with resources decides to weaponize the legal system against you, it feels impossible to fight back. The system isn't designed for people without money or connections. But what I learned is that truth has its own power. Even when it comes from unexpected places, like a 10-year-old girl brave enough to put her feelings on paper. Emma saved us that day, but I like to think I gave her the courage to do it. By showing her that standing up for yourself matters, especially when it seems hopeless. By demonstrating that you fight for what you love, no matter the odds. The hardest part of this journey wasn't facing James or the courts. It was fighting the voice in my own head that said, I wasn't enough. That voice still whispers sometimes, but now I have evidence to the contrary. I'm sharing this story because I know there's someone watching right now who's sitting on their own bathroom floor at 3 a.m., feeling like they've already lost. Someone facing a battle that seems unwinnable against someone with all the advantages. If that's you, please hear me. You are not alone. Your voice matters. Your truth matters. And sometimes help comes from the most unexpected sources. If you're going through something similar, share your story in the comments. Not just for support, though this community is amazing, but because your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. And if you know someone fighting an impossible battle, be their Mel. Be the person who helps them get back up. Sometimes all it takes is one person who believes in you. Remember, the people with the most power aren't always the ones who win. Sometimes it's the ones with the most heart. The ones who, even with shaking hands, refuse to let go of what matters most. Thank you for listening to my story.